Hi friends, it's Lauren. Thanks for joining me in my craft room today. I'm grateful to have you here for a Pretty Pink Posh Christmas project. And I have a simple but I think really fun Christmas card to share with you today. I'm going to be using the Holiday Wreath Builder Dies to create a faux embossed background and then add one of my favorite ornaments from the Holiday Ornament stamp set and the coordinating dies. So I started with lots of die cutting. I cut out all of the pine needle leaves. There are 3 different sizes in the Holiday Wreath Builder Dies, and I cut them out 4 times each out of some white cardstock. I trimmed down a panel of white cardstock to 4 by 5 1/4, and I laid all of the pine needles so they created a pattern and did not overlap in any way onto that panel. Next, I use a very low tack sticky mat. If you don't have one of these, you could use repositionable tape, or I've seen also using that cling wrap. I think it's called like press and seal. So you could use that as well to pick up all of the little pieces. And then I'm adding liquid glue to the backs of all of those little pine needles. I know it's a lot of work for these tiny little leaves, but I just think how it turns out looks really cool. It gives it a faux embossed look. So if you don't have an embossing folder, but you love the style of having that kind of 3D look on your cards, tone on tone die cutting is one way to achieve that. Once I finish adding all of the glue, I'm going to take my panel and press it right back onto all of those dies. Now I'm going to set this aside to dry. I want to make sure those little pine needle leaves are really stuck to that panel before I try to peel it off. While that's drying, I'm going to stamp and color one of the vintage ornaments from the Holiday Ornament stamp set. I really like this kind of bulbous, I don't know the right word for that, but how it looks like 2 little shapes on one ornament. If that makes sense, it's my favorite one out of the pack. And I'm going to stamp it on some alcohol marker friendly white cardstock, and I'm going to use an alcohol marker friendly black ink. Now I'm not going to take my ornament out of my MISTI. I'm going to leave it in there because once I'm done with my quick coloring, I'm going to stamp again with a VersaFine Clair ink to create a much more vibrant outline for my ornament. I'm using Olo alcohol markers to color in my image, starting with cool grays to color in the top of my ornament where normally you would tie a hook or a string to hang the ornament on a tree. I'm going to bring in some fun bright colors that I just think remind me the most of vintage ornaments, and that is more of a lime yellow green. I'm going to bring in a blue green to get that kind of teal turquoise feel that you see on vintage ornaments, and I'm just coloring in different areas of the pattern. I'm also going to bring in pink, and I'll bring in a little bit of yellow as well. I thought about just adding some glitter to some of the areas because I know a lot of times vintage ornaments have that fun white glitter attached to them. But since my background is already pretty much tone on tone white, I thought my ornament should be really colorful so that way it will pop off the card. I'm just doing some really quick and easy coloring. I'm not worrying too much about shading. But if you have any questions about the colors I'm using or about how I'm coloring, just let me know in the comments and feel free to tag me so I can respond. But again, just going with some fun, bright colors and very simple coloring with some minimal shading. Once I finish with the pink, I'm going to move on to the yellow, and I thought I'd bring in green one more time since I felt like it just got a little lost in all that pink from coloring around the diamond shapes where I originally have the green. I'm going to do one more stripe of yellow, and that will finish off my coloring. Once I'm all done coloring, I'm going to bring out that MISTI again and make sure I slide that piece of paper right back in the same corner. And this time I'm going to use Nocturne VersaFine Clair ink. And you'll see here when it stamps, that outline, it just looks so much more bold and vibrant. I'm also going to stamp the Merry sentiment, and the reason why I did that from the stamp set is because it has a coordinating die, and I'm going to use that as my sentiment on the card. Now that those are done, I'll go ahead and die cut them out, clean off my stamps, and put everything away. Now my background is dry, and as you can see, I'm slowly, it looks fast because I do speed up my videos, but slowly peel back the cardstock and make sure that all of those pine needles are stuck to the panel. I'm going to trim off all of the excess off the sides. I did a little bit here on camera, but I trimmed the rest out over my trash can. Here's another step that's not necessary, but I thought it would be fun. However, it's really hard to see on camera, but I did take a glitter spray that has an iridescent shine to it, and make sure you do this in a ventilated area. It's a bit like spray paint, so you can see a bit of the glossy shine on the camera here, but there really is this beautiful subtle shine that apparently you can only see in person. But it was another way to make sure that all of those pine needles are secure and on that panel. Now to assemble the card together, I'm taking my top folding A2 card base. That's just my favorite type of card base, but side folding will be just the same. And I'm adding adhesive to the back of that panel and adhering it down to the card base. For my ornament, I wanted to tie some twine. So I'm going to take a small hole punch and punch out the hole where the string would go through the ornament. I found some white and silver twine in my stash, so I'm going to use that, but you could definitely just use whatever baker's twine you have. If you're like me and went through the baker's twine phase of, 10 years ago, I still have quite a bit of baker's twine to use, so I'm going to use this old one from my stash. Now, I will admit it took me a long time to tie a little bow on this ornament. I'm going to kind of fast forward and not show you how many times I tried to tie a unique looking bow. At this point, I even put a couple extra pieces of the twine just to make it look more full. But the more I played with it and the more I looked at it, I didn't like it. So I'm going to pull those extra pieces out in just a minute. I'm taking some foam squares and I'm adding it to the back of my ornament, and I'll go ahead and peel off the release paper and get that onto my card front. It's a little off-centered. I fix it before I take photos, but I did my best to get it centered onto the card base. And here you can see, again, I'm fiddling with that silly little bow. I am going to take out those extra pieces because I just didn't like it. So I didn't talk about it, how I added them. I just tied a regular good old bow on the top of the ornament by the time I was done fiddling with it. I'm also going to trim off some of the ends just so it keeps to the A2 size of the card. For my sentiment, I decided to die cut the word Mary a few more times so I could layer them all together and use that as my, instead of using foam on the back of this sentiment, because there's some really dainty lines like on the M and the Y, I'm going to use cardstock. So this is just scrap white cardstock I have in my stash that are leftovers from die cutting or stamping. So I die cut them Mary 3 more times, didn't stamp them, just die cut them, and I'm gluing them all, layering behind my stamped sentiment. Once they're all layered together, I'll add the adhesive to the back and attach that underneath my ornament. Again, tried to get it centered, but it's just a little off-centered. But that's okay. It's a handmade card, and I think it looks really cute. I'm taking a white gel pen and just coloring over where I went out of the lines on my ornament, as well as giving a few little white highlights to the card. After that, I'll fiddle with the bow yet again because I can't let it go. You can see my hands there giving up. But here's a close-up look at this simple tone-on-tone faux embossing holiday card. I hope that it inspires you today and maybe you learned something new, or let me know if this is a technique that you have tried before. I think this same background would look really pretty in a green color to be inspired by an actual Christmas tree as well. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you'll click like, and if you're new here, I hope you'll subscribe and come back. As always, you can find everything I use down below in the description box. Thank you and have a wonderful day. Bye!